So hello, today we're at St Andrew's Church in Goodeyster in Essex, and I'd like to talk to you about the history of the church and the village itself. So Goodeyster is a village in Essex. It's 6 miles from Chelmsford City and it's connected in name to High Easter village nearby. The land is rural and farmland with twisty lanes, ideal for cycling. The population is around 350 people. You can see where we're standing now, it's a beautiful setting. Now the name Goodeyster derives from a noble Saxon woman who's called Godrith, and the Easter part comes from Eowester, meaning sheepfold. Now a hoard of 16 Roman coins were found here from Constantine III of 407 AD. Now in 1066, Aylmer the Saxon Thane owned a manor here, and Aylmer had 9 other manors in Essex, from Witton to Horndon. And his overlord was Edward the Confessor, King of England. Now the community here at that time consisted of 32 households, putting it in the largest 40% of settlements recorded in the Domesday Book. The area consisted of 20 acres of meadow and woodland with 60 pigs, and there was even a mill. Now under Norman rule, Count Eustace of Boulogne would become lord of the manor here. The tenant-in-chief would be St Martin le Grand, the canons of London. Now during this period there would be considerable amount of plough teams. There'd be 2 for the lord and 8 others. Now remember that each plough team would have at least 2 oxen. Now in 1068, William the Conqueror confirmed a grant of lands to the Church of St Martin, which he and his brother Girard built. Now Engeric was the priest of Edward the Confessor, and he would continue under William. And the lands of Goodeyster, Mashbury, Norton, Stamford, Fobbing, Tolsant, Rivenhall and Ongar all came under London's control through Engeric. But then Engeric suddenly died, and William passed all of this land onto Eustace of Boulogne. Now under King Stephen, he gave the canons of St Martin free rein over the lands here. The canons were conducting business up to 4 times a year here. And in 1279 the vicars here were given 7 acres of land, a sort of glebe, so they could live off the land and the income from it. Now during 1348 and beyond, the Black Death struck Goodeyster, and the lands here would have become desolate due to the cultivators not being around. The king then reduced the taxes. Now in 1503, St Martin le Grand became an endowment of the chapel owned by Henry VII. And by 1542, St Martin le Grand had been dissolved under the Dissolution of the Monasteries Act of King Henry VIII, and it would be Westminster Abbey that would take over the baton here. Now in 1884, with a population of around 500, part of the nearby Mashbury parish, known as Armours, was added to Goodeyster. and a detached part known locally as the Pinchers was added to Margaret Roofing Parish. I just love the names that are used here. Now around this time there were 9 farmers, one of whom acted as a local butcher. And as you can imagine, the trades of this period would include a miller or a baker, a shoemaker, a blacksmith, and a great deal of farm labourers. Now we stand at the old village green. Now going into World War I, in 1914 the census record showed that Good Easter still had 9 farmers, and I wonder how many we have today. Now the country England is officially into a drought, and I wanted to show you the tree here, which is shedding its leaves in August. I must say I lived through 76, but I don't remember seeing this, although I was very young at that age. Now I've not been able to find out very much on Good Easter, but I did find an author and bishop who was called Tully Kingdom, was a vicar here during the late part of the 19th century. Now we're walking from the village green towards the church itself. I just wanted to show you this little area here. This is the youth football club here, and if we pan around we've got the community library, which is in a outbuilding. So it's very clever because inside you've got all the local information, notice boards, etc. And then you've got community books. So now we're walking from the green back to the church, and it's got a beautiful barn there. So I just wanted to show you something that caught my eye. So now we'll focus on St Andrew's Church itself. It was built around 1200 in the period then, and evidence suggests there was a much earlier church here. The walls are made from flint rubble mixed with freestone. Dressings are from clunch. Now right about where this section is here, you'll see inside there's a whipping post, and that's where it was placed. Most likely originally it would have been in the village, on the village green itself. So we shall enter through the north gate. Again, it's a absolutely spectacular August day now. It's about 29 today. And a few clouds are coming in now. But the temperature's been over the weekend up to about 35, so it's been really hot. And we're expecting some much needed rain, which is unusual that you wish for rain, but I think we all need a bit in the next couple of days. So this is the church from the south side. So I just wanted to show you this huge pile of headstones. So over the centuries the grounds are cleared of graves, and you can see that you will amass a certain amount of stonework. So now we're looking at this 15th century stone porch, and we'll have a closer look on it. Now you can see that this church has got no tower as such, it's got a belfry. You can see the incredibly old door jambs there, corroded, weathered. And I would imagine at one time this would have been quite an expensive doorway actually. Now the Victorians have renovated this whole church, you can see it from the outside, a lot of flint work. So we shall have a look. If you look here, you've got these oak screens. And these are really good because they let the fresh air in and keep the birds out. Because once a bird was to get in here, it more or less perish. Let's have a look. Take my cap off. And straight away we can see some graffiti. And if you look above, you can see they put a new keystone in the centre. If we pull this screen shut, we can see an amazing amount of graffiti here. And if you look at the handwriting, it gives you almost an idea of the century. Now I've been looking at this and I've not come across these deep lacerations or gouge marks before, and I've got a feeling, it's a hunch, that they were sharpening the knives on this stone. perhaps the farm workers. Now these holes here are the poor man's aspirin, and you would basically grind that out and mix it with some fluid such as water, oil or wine if you're wealthy enough, and you consume that, and in the belief that this is a blessed building, the stonework is holy. If you look here, you can see a huge amount of stone has been removed. There's a very, very, very old piscina there, which would have originally contained the holy water here, and you would have made the cross, sign of the cross, and we have some plans. Looks like they're going to add a kitchen and a toilet to this church, which is much needed. And if I just pull this board out, you can see behind perhaps the knife sharpening. If that's what it is, I'm not sure. There's a huge amount of stone been taken out. Anyway, we should never know. But anyway, we should go in and have a look at the church itself. So as you come in, you've got a visitor's book and some various parish books and so on. And we should look at the actual structure. So now we're inside the church. We're in the south aisle, and it's 12 feet wide, and it was added around 1220 to extend the nave. And if we look up, there's more of a recent, I guess a Victorian, if I can catch that in the light, yeah. A roof on it. Now we should have a look in that far corner over there. And there's an interesting memorial. Now we're facing the memorial on the south wall of Margaret Briggs. She was the wife of Thomas Norrington of 1610, and it shows the daughter also. Now in this year, Parliament in London debates and petitions King James I. There was massive parliamentary changes in this year. Let's have a closer look. You can see the actual headdress and the actual clothing worn. And I guess originally her daughter would have been here on this section here. It's been pulled out. So also on the south wall, we've got a memorial from 1929. Vivid colours. Now just a little bit further along, also on the south wall, we've got another window, but this one looks a lot older. And if we pan up to the top, now we're facing the altar in the south aisle. I'm just going to show you what it looks like around here. You can see the ancient columns and piers there. And the central one is more octagonal. And this end is circular. So different centuries. And if you sort of pan down, again you can see people have been doodling in these long services they used to have. I read about an hour and a half. And I also read that if you missed a service, you could be, see again they've been taking stuff out, you could be waiting outside and you would get a further service. So now we should walk over to the nave. So we'll just go up behind here. Can't see that window. So now we're looking at a 12th century nave, which has been much restored, and it measures 48 feet by 18 feet. And again, you can see the massive Victorian beams that have been put in. So now we should walk through, and I'll show you that whipping post that I talked about earlier. So if you look over here, behind the pulpit, I guess. So this whipping post was for two sizes of wrist. So you've got the larger one here. And from a photograph that was taken outside, it looks like there used to be a beam that ran across here, and there was a set of stocks attached. Now if we look straight ahead, we're looking at the chancel. But we've got the original arch there to the chancel, which at one period would have had a rood screen going across. And you can see behind the pulpit there, the stairs would have gone up. So now we're going to enter the chancel. Now this is 13th century and it measures 30 feet by 14 feet. We shall walk under the screen. And if you look along the edge, you can see, I guess they're called a sedilia, where the priests would sit. Now if we look up there, we've got an antiquity, perhaps a lion. And if we look on the other wall, we've got a funeral helmet, which would have been originally on top of the coffin. Got an extremely old door. I don't know the actual date of this, but it's probably about 15th century or 16th. You can see how it's all been carved out. Totally original. Incredible age. If you look down, you can actually see the shape of the planks. A massive key there. And we've got some Interesting floor tiles. Some ancient relic, looks like a headstone. With a memorial above, don't know any history. And we have the high altar area. And we should look closer at this lovely window above. The colours, immense detail. I think they're often overlooked. And you can actually see a great big tie rod holding the walls just above the window itself. Okay, so now we're going to turn our back on the chancel and we're going to look at the belfry itself. It's a huge amount of oak that is holding up the spire and all the bell mechanics. So this belfry was built in 1885 and a stovepipe caused a serious fire, destroying much of the belfry and the spire itself. Now the architect, and he's quite famous, Frederick Chancellor, he would install the new oak post we see today, the belfry braces and the complete spire as we see it today. I can only imagine there must have been a splendid 15th or 16th century oak structure here before the fire. And if we have a little look up the top, you can see the massive structure there. We should have a little closer look. So you can see nestling in between the posts, we've got an organ there. And the whole lot rests on this sole plate, I guess it's called. It's about 16-inch square. It's a massive oak beam. Now if I come over here, they have listed all the vicars of Good Easter. Goes into detail there about early Eustace and the various vicars there. Now in the centre there we have an actual Victorian font in the period of Norman. You can see this is like a full immersion font, so you can literally put the baby directly in there. And there's a step there for the priest. It's quite a size actually, as fonts go. And here we have one of the bells up to the top. And if I pan around, you can see a cabinet here with 5 bell ropes going into it. If we open it up, got a series of bells. So now we should leave this lovely old church. I didn't want to miss this war memorial from the Great War, World War One. I can talk to you about the bells actually. There were 3 bells and they were replaced by John Warner and Sons of London in 1886. Remember the fire damage. So the Warner Foundry was founded by Jacob Warner. He was a Quaker of 1739, and he started by casting water pumps for the fire brigade, and also beer engines. And for pumping, he made village well pumps and mangles for washing. Now the Warner bells can be found in the Houses of Parliament in London, and also next to Big Ben. And there's 4 quarter bells cast by the Warner brothers, actually in Big Ben. So now what we do is have a little look around. We just go for a walk around the perimeter. So this is the outside of the chancel. You can see that as the clay has shrunk in the heat, most likely it's caused subsidence, and I'm afraid it's going to cause a few problems for buildings across the country. So this buttress is going to require some attention. Then we are on the east window. We can see at one point the iron rods that used to, like window bars I think they call them, they've been removed. That house opposite is most likely to be the original vicarage, I guess. Now we're on to the north side. You see the spire is quite a size. Now we're walking around. We've got this amazing north door. This could have been for the priests or the gentry, I'm not sure. But it's certainly got some age to it. You can almost see where the actual iron plate and the iron nail they've put through there. I don't exactly know what that is meant to be for. We should carry on. You can clearly see it's been renovated by the Victorians. And up the top there looks like this stops. Stone stops, they haven't carved any gargoyles into that. Maybe they leave it blank for a future date. There's another north door. This could be for the lords of the manor. I did notice on the coins, you can see this has been used from possibly a previous building. There's another one there. It's hard to see. As you walk through, there's some nice yew trees, probably around 300 years old. Now I just wanted to show you in the distance there the access. So again, with many of these churches, you will have public footpaths, which are very old indeed, as old as a church often, and they will be protected. So you can incorporate church visits to walking routes. So the Church of Good Easter is active church, still carrying out baptisms, weddings and funerals, and is active in the community. So I've hoped you have enjoyed that very much. Thank you very much.